Okay, so next we want to talk about delay. Again, what is delay? Delay is a repeat of the original signal over time. So it could be a single repeat, which would be more like an echo, or it could be repeated multiple times. And delay can be used as a creative tool to emphasize certain parts of your mix. There are different types of delay. Specifically, we could go with more of a single delay, which would be an echo, or we could do like a doubler, which would be a very, very short time, or we could do extended time to really emphasize a certain phrase or certain note. In this case, we're talking about a delay on the Avantis console here, and we want to go through some of the parameters. Again, very common parameters across your console and your outboard equipment, and we'll talk about the most common ones. So I have a vocal set up here. Vocal sending into an aux feed right now, and it's returning on a channel. So let's just listen to a basic delay.
Holy Spirit, move. Let your love come rushing and flow.
Dry. There's your dry vocal. And there's the wet with delay. Let's talk about the first function here that we see. We see time. Time is a description of the time that it takes for the repeat of the original signal to come back. So in this case, it looks like there is a tap option on here. In most modern effects units and most outboard units, we have the option for a tap. So you can either dial it in, if you know the timing of your song, or you can tap it in. So in this case, we can go to local, and I can tap. Typically tap on the quarter note for myself. You can go to a global tap, and that would actually reflect to your console's tap button. But that time certainly represents the amount of time it takes for your repeated signal to come back. So let's listen to some of those changes.
Let it well up in my soul till I want for nothing more. Let your heart be my heart.
Very, very long tap there.
Holy Spirit,
or I can dial it way down.
let your love come rushing and flow. Let it well up in my soul till I want
All the way down to less than 100 milliseconds. Basically turns it into a doubler.
be my heart. Holy Spirit, move.
And on this console, we can actually change it from milliseconds to BPMs. I said earlier that I typically tap it in on a quarter note. So you could come up here and just tap it in, just like that. Or the other screen that we saw was just like this. In this case, we are also looking at a stereo delay on the console. So each side can actually have different timings, which could give it some sort of ping pong effect. And we're gonna demonstrate that really quick. We'll unlink the sides, take that to an eighth note. Let's take that to a half note. And let's just see how dramatic that is. Dry vocal.
Holy Spirit, move. Let your love come rushing and flow.
Feel the delay going back and forth.
Let it well up in my soul till I want for
Again, don't hesitate to overdo some of these functions when you're playing with your... The next thing we'll talk about is feedback. Feedback is the amount of times that original signal is fed back into the loop of the delay. So you could also consider that as repetition or repeats of that same echo, as it were. So let's listen to that. Dry.
and flow. Let it well up in my soul till I want for nothing.
And there's feedback at 0.
Let your heart
Let's go extreme.
be my heart. Holy Spirit, move. Let your love come rushing and flow.
This is a good example of how you can get carried away and create a feedback loop if you go all the way up into the feedback. So let's be careful. I typically like to ride these things around 30% in your feedback.
Holy Spirit, move. Let your love come rushing and flow. Let it well up in my soul.
And that's feedback. We'll see what that actually can do for us when we actually put the whole mix together. Last thing we'll talk about is wet versus dry. I spoke earlier that this vocal is going to an aux mix and then returning on an effects return. So in that case, there's your dry and there's your wet. What I have done though is I've actually inserted this on a channel, and now we have our wet and dry functions on the channel itself. So right now it's set to dry. We'll bring that up. And I have this set very, very short to be more like a vocal doubler. We're going to roll in the wet.
Let your heart be my heart. Holy Spirit, move.
Well, let's overdo it real quick.
Let your love come rushing and flow. Let it well up in my soul. Till I want for nothing more. Let your heart.
You can play with your wet and dry mixture to find the right spot for yourself. So there's delay. On your console, you may see many other effects or a lot of other parameters just in delay. But these are the basics that help you get there and to help you use this tool to make your mix more cohesive.